I mean, it's definitely the South, undeniably the South, and you know that if you've ever been there. But it's also East Coast, so it's like a weird I-95 melting pot of music. So you get like a crazy mixture. I just happen to be on the more East Coast. My style-wise was influenced more by the East Coast artists. Of course, I love, you know, the Scarfaces and the Outkast with a passion, but the rappers that I was trying to rap like, initially I was trying to rap like Master P and No Limit. That's just because my cousin was from Louisiana and he kind of started me rapping. But once I started to love it and really wanted to get good, I started to emulate the Nas's and the Cannabises and the more lyrical guys. So that's how my style got to how it is today, being a Southern artist with a more East Coast-based flow and style, I guess. It was around 98, and Cannabis had just came out. I remember the first time I heard him and how clever his lines were and how, you know, how hard his punchlines hit me. And he was like a real aggressive battle rap type of guy. And even Eminem, when he was on his more, you know, kind of raw freestyle stuff. And those were the guys that made me be like, oh man, let me try to do that. Let me, you know, I like the challenge of coming up with a lot of rhymes in one line and being as witty as possible. Like it was a challenge for me. Nah, I don't. Actually, when it comes to, I think my freestyles are terrible. Like my actual off the top freestyles, like never before thought of. You know, other people, to the average person, they're not terrible. But to me, I don't like them. I prefer, you know, taking time and writing down. But just on the topic of freestyling, like no real topic, I feel like I've done that so much in my life so far that lately the past 5 years of my life has really just been storytelling and concepts and conceptual. And I leave the more really rapping just about nothing to the mixtapes and things like that, and save the album for the more conceptual type music. It didn't shape me musically because my style was already shaped by the time I went to New York. So it was like, and not to mention the music scene by the time I got up there was, at least hip hop wise, was non-existent. Like it was at its probably lowest point. So basically I guess New York shaped me just from experience. Like I feel like I kind of became a man in New York because I moved up there when I was 18, went to school. My first time not living with my mother, you know, my first time being on my own, freedom, whether it was dorms or I got my first apartment. So that's really how kind of New York shaped me. I feel like I became a man there, and it's tougher. New York is harder to make it in. It's harder to live. Like it's harder to survive. That's the whole reason I chose St. John's was because it was in New York. I didn't even know a thing about St. John's. All I knew was in New York from the basketball team. But I didn't know a thing about it. I applied, and the first day I ever saw it was at my college orientation. So, you know, I was just like, man, I'm going to New York for the music. Definitely not the best way to pick a college. But, you know, they had a good name, so it's not like I picked, you know, I made the right choice. Yeah, I graduated magna cum laude to be exact, man. Yeah, I had like a 3.83, 3.82 when I finished. I was a communications major, but still, you know. Oh, yeah, I'm not the college dropout. I know people that, like, that was their anthem. When college dropout dropped, this is just a side note. I know people who were really, like, that was their motivation to drop out of college. They were like, man, I don't need this. I'm going to do what Kanye did, which they didn't. And I had to go through part-time jobs, like $10 an hour, trying to pay my rent in New York, which wasn't working, and just knocking on doors, and me and my immediate team just trying to play our music for anybody that would listen. And eventually, after like a lot of people wouldn't listen, things started catching on, and Lights Please started getting around, and all these other songs that I had started getting around through the industry. And Jay heard it. And from there, I guess he heard Lights Please and was immediately like, yo, bring this kid to me. So he set up the meeting. I didn't even believe the meeting was really going to happen, but 3-4 weeks later it happened. Fantastic meeting, and then here we go. No, I'm pretty much, I'd say that first, I mean, I was developing even before the deal, and I put out the mixtape and kind of built the foundation, and I took a couple months to kind of get in the studio and feel how it felt to be in the studio as a signed artist, and then started working on the album. Probably say I officially started working on the album around September, and here we are March, and I'm almost there. I'm like right there. I just finished one of the songs that I think was, you know, the glue that I needed to finish the album. I got signed, and then I released the warm-up, which is like the what I'm known for now. And I haven't released another mixtape since then. It's just been little songs here and there just to tease the people. it's kind of like a struggle as not a struggle, but you got to be strategical, I think, as a new artist, to not put too much out, but to not put too little out. You know, those are legends, and even Jay Electronica is got, you know, he's super duper lyrical and got a good buzz about him right now. So just to be on the song with those guys was an honor. I mean, it's a bunch of guys that care about rap now, you know, and they care about their lines, and they were always there. I was always here, but now it's like it's not about them caring, it's about the fans. Now I feel like the fans are actually, you know, we went through that phase where everybody was like, hip hop is dead, and everybody was complaining about music, and it's like you ask and you receive. Like, people are on the lookout for better music now, or more substance and quality. Back in the days, rap was more like wrestling. You could pick your persona and stick with it, and the people just believed it. Like, the rap fans believed it. So we really believe Jay was like a drug kingpin, you know, still spending money for 88. Whether or not it was true or not, like, who cares? The music was incredible. Biggie was really like this, you know, this overweight player, smooth guy, like, because that's what he rapped about. And, you know, and Pac was really this maniac, like, this is what we thought these guys really were, whether or not they were or not. I feel like the new lyrical guys these days have to stick more to themselves. Like, Wale really has to be like the fashion, you know, the fashion guy who grew up African, and I really have to be the guy who moved to, like, you have to tell your story now, because if you don't, and if you're slightly off, it's gonna come back and haunt you, because the internet, you know, you can't be rapping like you're a drug kingpin and I could just pull up your Enterprise, your W-Dons from Enterprise, you know, whatever the case is, whatever regular job you had. So I think it changed in that way. Like, you have to stick more to who you really are. Blue, like, that's everyday things. Like, you can really feel that music. Like, that's like he's talking about maybe catching the bus to, you know, wherever he's catching the bus to. And these are things we really go through. I think it's a great thing. I feel like it makes the music more real. I mean, it changed in the sense of how busy I am and how much work I do now, but it hasn't changed. Like, I haven't blown my money and become some super, like, kind of flashy guy. So, and I still got the same people around me. But since I signed and got the deal, the only thing that's changed is I've become more conscious of being commercially successful without trying, you know, without crossing the line of selling out or whatever the case is. So still keeping the music pure and keeping it lyrical and content worthy and artistically, you know, have as much as artistic integrity as possible, but still being aware of what could sell and what's going to reach the largest amount of people. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it's a business, and you have people that are investing money in you, and you want to, you know, you don't want to brick. Yeah, Jay definitely, even though it took him longer. But I think probably the most perfect example I can think of is Kanye, because he came out, College Dropout was an undeniable classic. And I always use him as an example because he didn't, you know, that album is 100% him. He didn't have to, you know, he didn't have to change to sell millions. It was just him. He made great music. He came out with Jesus Walks as a single. Like, people were playing Jesus Walks in the club, All Falls Down. So that's what I mean by keeping it true to yourself, but you can still sell records. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he came out talking about things like that people before thought it would probably be so uncool to rap about. Like, you know, he's rapping about family issues and I don't know, everyday things you can relate to. So maybe that, not even maybe, that's a big reason why rappers like me can even exist today. I haven't succeeded because we don't know yet, but I feel like I'm there, like I figured it out. Listening to my album, I feel like I figured it out. And there wasn't one formula. It was just kind of just working on it and seeing what came out. Just really setting the intention of what I wanted the album to be. I'm glad you said that. So that's what I'm not doing. Like, I don't have a club song. I don't have the radio song. I don't have the girl song. I just have a lot of great songs. I've been in the studio. No ID was a big part of the album, even just in terms of helping develop me as a producer. So we got classics together. We made some incredible songs, but even just watching him as a producer and him giving me game and knowledge as a producer, it was like some of the most helpful, probably the biggest part of me making this album was that schooling that I got from him. But I also went in the studio with Pharrell. He gave me some, you know, hey, we did a song, and I've been in the studio with Salam Remy and Jim Johnson, and that was the extent of the people I worked with.